The previous basket is under review.
Welcome back to another episode of Stats by Will and Jim, the College Hoops podcast that focuses on the numbers. I am your host, Jim Root, joined as always by my co-host, Will Warren. We are riding the high of hanging out in person in Indianapolis, but the bittersweet ending of the college basketball season. Will, before I give a little shout out to Basket Under Review and a general plug for everything under that umbrella, how are you feeling? Are you wound down after the excitement of the weekend? Are you kind of feeling the sadness of the extended 7-month break?
A little bit of everything. Catching up on sleep, I will admit, has been nice. Been pretty. My wife is thrilled that we're back to a relatively normal sleep schedule, and that I'm not. We can watch Love Island USA again together. I do want to address a rumor by the media. So I was caught holding hands like this with Eamon. That is perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with that. That's actually normal things friends do.
Wow, is that a reference to something? Will, what are you getting at here?
There's nothing wrong with clasping your hands together with another person.
Yeah, for the audio listener, the fingers are very intertwined in Will's demonstration here. Maybe an allusion to a certain NFL coach and media member. May or may not be.
It'll be really funny if she's just not employed by the time this goes up.
Well, we'll see. Hey, never speak about another man or woman's job. That's what they say. Right?
It's true.
Oh boy. Okay. Most folks probably know what we're talking about out there. If you don't, Google NFL coach and insider.
Yeah,
and
just
see
go
what comes
to
up.
was it page 6 or whatever? Page 6 is where they have all the gossip. You're always going out with your friends, your female friends in Arizona. It's always a place you're just going
rags.
for fun.
You hang out on private rooftops with them, just them. That's it. That's how it works. Okay. Yes. That is quite an intro here. We're, as mentioned, Stats by Will and Jim. We are under the Basket Under Review umbrella, the wonderful website and community that Trilly Donovan has built in the college basketball world. It is a hotspot right now in the Discord for all of the portal rumors. Trilly's got all the scoops on where guys are visiting, where they're leaning towards, who's in the lead for him. He's got some predictions on where guys are going to end up. Truly the perfect time if you love the offseason drama and the player movement and the coaching carousel, although that's mostly wrapped up. Mike Malone, what's up? Welcome to Chapel Hill, apparently. Make sure you join the Discord. It is only $10 a month. That also gets you access to the website where myself, the rest of the three-man weave, plus Matthew Winnick and several others, Jordan Majeski, et cetera, are doing a portal fit analysis where every time key guys commit, we're trying to break down how they'll fit in their new space. Just as we started recording right before JP Estrella committed to Michigan. Will, you are a Vol man. Mm-hmm. Give the folks a quick rundown on how he's going to fit on the reigning national champs.
Great get by them. There's no such thing as a bad get in portal season for sure. I would like to see them eliminate a little bit of the softness from his game. He's a very, very good permanent player, but as a rim protector, really struggles, and as in like true post-ups defensively, not really much for it. Also commits some dumb fouls. But if you can get him when he's hot, you are going to have like a 20-10 game from him. So, and I trust Dusty and the crew to make the most out of him. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see him take more threes this year because he's got a good jumper.
Yeah, he's got some nice touch. That little half hook, baby hook, I feel like is a pretty tough move to stop of his. I will also say to the listeners, if you're not a member of the Discord, we kind of defy what Will just said there. We will tell you if we think a guy is a bad get in the portal. Look no further than Gabe Cupps to Ohio State last season, where we were not kind and that didn't work out. So we'll try to be very honest and blunt if we don't think a guy will work. And that means when we think a guy will, it will come across better. So make sure to join. $10 a month, website and Discord. That is Basket Under Review. Make sure to listen to all the other pods too. Will made a little cameo on the Burp Basket Under Review pod the night of the title game. So if you want to hear more of him, check that out. All right, the episode format today, we're looking back at the Final Four in the title game. We've got 4 numbers each. Well, I guess we didn't explicitly communicate this, but I did do a little of the semifinals too. It's not just the title game for discussion. Perfect. Okay. So we'll discuss all 3 games from this weekend in Indianapolis. And then we will have a little fun breakdown. We kind of coined the term, was it shooting the shit with Will and Jim at the end of last episode? We were just talking ball and life and whatever. We're going to break down a little bit of just the weekend that was in Indy, some of the hangs we got in the media game breakdown. I've got a few joking numbers that I think are worth discussing in the Final Four in Indianapolis realm. So if you want to stick around for that after the ball knower discussion, please do. It'll be fun. Okay, before we get to that, Will, let's do a quick stat of the day. It's very quick today. The question I have for you, per verbal commits right now, the transfer portal, how many players have entered the transfer portal from Division One? This technically includes walk-ons. It includes a few people who have entered that almost certainly don't have eligibility, but I'm curious if you know the number.
I'm going to go. So it's not what that guy. What's that? Shane something. Shane Tuttle, the parody account. He was like, "There's 3,000." It's like, no, there's not. I am going to go 1,827.
Okay, you are within 100. No, you're not. Sorry, you're within 120 or so.
Okay.
It is, if we're talking years, this would be 2 years after JFK was assassinated. That's my hint. I almost got him to spit out a drink, folks.
1,965. That's crazy. Was there a second shooter in the portal?
I'm going to let that one breathe. That was too good. I can't walk over that. That's fantastic. Oh, folks, on the grassy knoll, there are some shooters in this portal. Yes, it is very popular. It is causing me great headache of my transfer portal document or my ongoing roster document as I'm trying to get every guy thrown in there. And I've got like 1,300 of the names in there, but a lot more labor to get them into the portal. So it may be a work in progress when I open access to that, but that's neither here nor there. The portal is popular. There's going to be a lot of movement. And hey, like I said, one more reason to join Basketball in Review and the Discord. All right. Before we talk numbers, one last thing. We've got to give a shout out to Home Field Apparel, our loyal sponsor here at Basketball in Review and on the Stats by Will and Jim podcast. It is the best place to get your college sports gear. Check it out. They did have the Campus Court collection. I think that's probably a little bit stale news now because the season is over, but it's still a bunch of great gear, blue blood programs, old school logos. You got shorts, you got shooting shirts. That goes along with the hoodies, joggers, t-shirts, hats, everything in between. I think there's like hockey jerseys up there, baseball jerseys up there. So whatever you're looking for to support your school, Home Field Apparel has got it with a sweet logo on it. And if you use promo code BURNER15 when you check out, that is BURNER15, you get 15% off your purchase, and that lets them know you came from the Burner. So they'll keep paying us, we hope. Yay.
They released some sick Michigan championship shirts too, I noticed. So if you're a Michigan fan.
They're getting real good with the timely releases. I know Indiana winning the national title in football was kind of just, the peak of that organization considering their background in the state of Indiana, but clearly they've got it for Michigan too with some of those incredible designs they've got for winning the title. All right, that's Home Field Apparel, homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, Will, I'm going to kick it to you to lead off the discussion or a little back and forth on the weekend of basketball that was game Saturday, title game Monday night. Take it in whatever direction you want. I'm curious what you lead off with.
This one's about the run for me. 541 is the number of points scored by Michigan in the 2026 NCAA tournament. Third most ever in a tournament. Most since 1990 UNLV. And when you're on the list with the peak run and Rebs, that's a hell of a thing to be. It was nice to finally get a champion right in a bracket. Been a little bit, won't lie. So good to see one go in. Sometimes you just got to see the putt hit the bottom of the cup, as they say. I haven't golfed in 4 years, but for Michigan purposes, I think as time goes on, there's a little bit of an odd aversion to this team. I noticed from fans, not really much from media. It kind of seemed like media were largely fine with U of M. But more of a dislike than I've noticed for like the UConn runs or even some of the Kansas teams of years past, like teams that were clearly the best, for good portions of the season, and then, went on to have a pretty dominant tournament run. I do think that dislike will fade and that this team is going to continue to grow in stature as an all-time elite group because it's one thing to obviously win the title, have all these scoring, bonanzas, beat all these teams by double digits. But it really locked it in for me what they did to Arizona, because I mean that's going to go down as 91-73. But if Michigan wanted to, that could have been a 30-plus point win. They could have beaten them by more than they did Tennessee, which is a wild thing to think about.
Yeah, just pulverize the team that you could have made a case had the best resume or was the best team in the country all season. And some of the interesting part about that Michigan run and them being kind of an all-time team is, well, A, they didn't win the Big Ten tournament. Shout out to Purdue, who was able to take them down in the title game. And I'm going to reference a little bit about how and why I think that happened in my first number. But the AP poll, Will, they were in the top 12 in the Week 6 AP poll. So that legend lives on, continues. But they also only spent one other week at number one. It was February 16th. They were number one in the AP poll. They were number two for quite a bit of the season. They were number 4 and 3 through most of January, number 3 in the end of February and March. And yet they sit atop the sport. They sit atop KenPom. It's just kind of like, I don't know, because there were two other really, really good teams in Duke and Arizona that sort of separated themselves. It almost underrated how great Michigan was during the regular season. And just thinking back to the 40-point demolitions they had in Vegas as part of the Players era and some of the ensuing games after, they looked a little more mortal leading up to the title game. But man, leading up to the tournament, the Big Ten tournament run was not as dominant. But man, they found their form again in the NCAA tournament. And despite almost losing, I'm with you. I think that was an elite run.
It was, and it is kind of funny to compare them to the run and Rebs because, I mean, we knew they were going to be pretty good, but some early season struggles kind of made them wobble a little bit, like the TCU game, the Wake Forest game especially. I had completely forgotten they were down by 7 with like 3 minutes left in regulation. For some reason, I thought that was 50-50 the whole way. But the for a team compared to that Vegas group, for them to really take off in Vegas at Players era, that's a pretty fascinating twist in their story of not only did they, I believe the jump was from 14th or 15th in KenPom to first in 3 days, which I've never seen before. That was what announced them as, a true power to be reckoned with. And you look back at their losses and none of them are going to end up aging poorly. Like Wisconsin, yeah, it's a tough home loss, but Wisconsin shot the lights out from 3. That happens. Duke, nobody's going to be offended by you losing to Duke. Purdue, nobody's going to be offended by that on a neutral court with basically nothing to play for aside from the banner. So, I mean, everything about their season is going to age quite well. They are ushering in a new-ish era of college hoops, which kind of feels like an oldish era of college hoops, just with analytics. So I'm fascinated to see what lessons other programs take from U of M. Do we see more of like a edging out to like a super big team, like with 3 bigs playing together? So I'm curious. I mean, their impact on the sport, it could be either really big or it could be minimal, and we're not going to find out for a few years. But I think regardless, their status as an all-time great group is going to hang in there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little like 2018 Villanova, where everybody wants to imitate the style. Like, oh, what if we just got 5 shooters with an NBA player running the show? Like, yeah, no, that's not repeatable. Like everybody's going to want, oh, what if we all got a 7'3" shot blocking monstrosity and then had 2 other versatile bigs that could switch on the perimeter? Let's just recreate that. So I think there's going to be maybe some futile attempts to try to do what Michigan did, because I think the roster was built so well and so uniquely. Those guys fit together in a way that, frankly, not that many people from the outside saw. I mean, like the shooting development of Elliot Cadeau and having wings like Roddy Gale, people were like, oh, how's he fit? Not a good shooter with a bunch of bigs. I just have to tip my cap to Dusty May, who's another guy worth shouting out here. Not one of my numbers, but he's only 49 years old. Obviously, we had a very young champion with Todd Golden last year, but there's been such a rash of retirements among the old guard. Krzyzewski, Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim. People worry if Bill Self is going to do the same. Who knows how long Rick Pitino will be here? But with Danny Hurley, with Todd Golden, some of the other young coaches, Dusty May has now etched himself way up there as one of the guys to watch as who knows how high the trajectory can go. He turned Michigan around immediately, and then in his second year, national title, one of the best teams in the country. So I'm optimistic and excited to see what his career trajectory is. Because remember, he went to the Final Four at FAU, which is just ridiculous. And so then to do what he did just within 2 years at a power conference, the sky is the limit for him as a career arc. All right, my first number, Will, is 65. And that is the possession count from the title game. And basically, I just kind of shrugged and was like, UConn did everything right. And that was the first game in the postseason in the NCAA tournament that was under 71 possessions for Michigan. And looking back, a lot of Michigan's worst performances were these half-court games. The Big Ten title game we talked about, 63 possessions, they lost. Duke game, 62 possessions, they lost. At Iowa, 62 possessions against Ben McCollum. They only won by 3. Even Minnesota, a team you would think they would absolutely blow out, 65 possessions, they win by 10. Let's ignore the 30-point beatdown of UCLA in a low possession game. But generally speaking, what you had to do was slow them down, make them play in the half court, take away the transition opportunities, the quick runouts, the transition threes, which is where they got a ton of great looks. And UConn did all of that and still just wasn't quite enough. I've got a couple other numbers from that game, but I want to hat tip to the UConn coaching staff because I thought they came in with a perfect plan, and unfortunately Michigan was still just a little bit better on that given night.
Yeah, I've got a UConn number on that coming here in a second, but their game plan was outstanding. I thought both teams did a tremendous job of taking away what the other wanted to do. Michigan switching on off-ball screens really helped them, tamp down some of what UConn wanted to do on the offensive end. And obviously UConn's ability to muck the game up was tremendous. Not only the 65 possessions, but I think Michigan's slowest offensive pace since the Iowa game, I believe, on March 5th. Very slow, very, quiet game, and surprisingly so. I was so impressed with what UConn did, making the game, there's a lot of people complaining about how ugly the game was or how it wasn't, this beautiful display of basketball, I guess. But I would say to them, the only way UConn could have hung in that game was to make it ugly, to make it Iowa-esque. And they did as good a job as they possibly could have. I was so impressed by their ability to slow it down both ends of the court. And, major hat tip to Dan Hurley.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the losing coach's perspective when we get to the Illinois game, because I want to talk a little bit about Brad Underwood and what he mentioned and talked about after that. I was a little surprised that Dan Hurley kind of just pointed to missed shots at the end of this game. Like, he's like, yeah, that was pretty much it. We just didn't make the shots we needed to. I don't buy that when the other team was 2 for 15 from 3 and 3 of 24 outside the paint. Like, they did not make any jumpers, Michigan did. And they still won. And I think a lot was made of maybe the foul differential, but that's who those teams were going into the season or going into the game. Michigan gets to the line a ton because they're huge and they're physical. UConn fouls a lot and does not get to the line. They were outside the top 300 in free throw rate on both ends. I didn't really think this was a make or miss game. I thought the better team won. And quite honestly, UConn took 5 shots near the rim, 5 shots near the rim per CBP analytics. Like, they just didn't get that good of looks. And I know they took a lot of threes and had some good looks in the second half. But again, Michigan was 3 for 24 outside the paint. I can't really point to this as a bad shooting luck game for UConn as the result.
Yeah, you could say it was a bad shooting luck for Michigan, like you mentioned. Them making a couple more threes, this isn't nearly as close of a game. We're talking about how Michigan overcame the pace of the game to still win by 14 or whatever. But it's just how it goes. And you could even point to the fact Michigan had shot extremely well from 3 in the NCAA tournament heading into that game and was probably due for some sort of a stinker. So,
yep, and UConn had that devil magic. I think their opponent shot like 18% from 3 against them in the Final Four and title game. So, it's hard to blame opponent shooting as the reason that UConn didn't win. I know it's really more about their own shooting when Hurley's talking about that perspective. But hey, if you both shot average from 3, I think Michigan still wins the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have another number from that particular contest?
Not for that one alone, but for both Final Four games from UConn, the number is 2. That is the number of fast break points allowed across both games. Illinois had 0, obviously a season low, and Michigan had 2, which I believe was tied for their season low. Uh, the way that UConn controlled the game flow against both teams, just a major hat tip to Hurley and crew. That's incredible too. I know Illinois plays slower offensively in general, so they're not as transition based. For them to get 0 easy points in transition was a real story of the game to me, because once it was in half court, it was a lot of one-on-one, a lot of Keaton Wagler, what can you do here? What can we possibly produce on these pick and pop threes, which ended up being not much. And in the Michigan game, serious credit to UConn getting back after missed shots. I have down the one fast break layup in the entire game as a Cadeau layup. I think was 16:20 left in the game. So Michigan, not a single fast break point in the first half, one bucket on the fast break the entire game. Just wildly, wildly impressive by this UConn team, who is clearly, I mean, if we're being honest, talent wise, 4th of 4 in this Final Four. And for them to end up, essentially 6 points away from 3 titles in 2 years, stunning. Incredible coaching job.
Yeah, I remember watching it live thinking like, oh, I thought Michigan had some fast break points. Like I think Morris Johnson had a rim run that was more secondary break, I guess you could call it. But yeah, like true, like they weren't getting the Ademara like long outlet passes. They got a few of those. Michigan hit a few of those against Arizona, a team that wasn't able to defend and change the tenor of the game and slow it down because Arizona didn't want to. But they weren't able to keep Michigan out of transition the same way that UConn was. And man, it was a brilliant game plan. You had to do it, and they executed it really well. And so as much as we're praising it, it's every time we praise UConn for their game plan in a loss, that should tell you how impressive Michigan is and how good they are to overcome that, playing not a style they wanted to, and still coming away with the victory.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot lesser teams get shaken by, styles make fights contests like that. And I mean, despite all of that, Michigan controlled the lead for, I believe, over 30 minutes in this game. And, it kind of played out a little bit like I had in my preview. I thought on a base, average simulation of this game, it was going to be, Michigan by 3 to 4 possessions, and they were never going to seriously be threatened in the final 10 minutes, but would never be able to motor away. So it was on the lesser side of those outcomes, but it does go to show you, like, one, UConn did a tremendous job, but two, that's just how good this Michigan team was. They're able to play that style of ball, have a horrendous shooting night, give up 22 offensive rebounds, which we somehow haven't talked about, and still win by multiple possessions.
Yeah, UConn won the shot volume battle.
Yeah,
not like massively convincingly, but 68 to 55 in field goal attempts, a little bit offset by free throws, but winning the rebounding battle, basically even in turnovers. It was, everything seemed to work there. Alex Karaban played all 40 minutes, and I think he's representative of that UConn identity of they went down 11, seemed like they were kind of not out of gas, but like running out of the momentum to get back in the game. And they cut into the lead multiple times. Like the first time they get down 11, they end up cutting it back down to 5. Second time they get down 11, they end up cutting it back down to 4. Like it's just not a team that's going to go away. We saw that against Duke in the Elite Eight. We should have known it was coming, and I think we kind of did, more or less. That they would never roll over. But just time and again, they answered the bell, and every time they cut it close, Michigan just had enough of an answer, and that's why they are the 2026 national champions. All right, yeah, the last number, it kind of ties into something I half mentioned earlier, but 7.5 feet, which is the average 2-point attempt distance for UConn. I mean, they wanted to pound it into Terrace Reed. It's just hard to go in against Ademara. Like, he's going to make all those half hooks just a little bit more difficult. Reed struggled to convert those. He was only 5 of 10 from 2, which is a little bit less than what we've expected to see, especially the tear he was on in the NCAA tournament. And as I said, per CBB Analytics, only 5 shots at the rim. They did take 26 in the paint, But so there's a lot of like floater range type stuff. They did not get layups. They did not get dunks. And that's kind of been the case all season against Michigan. But when I think of UConn's offense, I think of the beautiful action they run to get those layups and dunks. You look at the comeback against Duke, the stuff they ran was getting them layups and dunks to cut into that lead. And Michigan they're too big. They're too well schooled on that end. And even for, the quick turnaround, Will, of 48 hours to prepare for UConn's really intricate off-ball motion, off-ball action, I thought Michigan did a fantastic job of keeping them away from the rim and not letting them get easy looks.
Yeah, like I mentioned, that off-ball switching really blew up a lot of what UConn wanted to do. They still got off their threes and did get off some open ones, but it felt like the shot quality was the most difficult they'd faced in the tournament so far. And I mean, even in the Illinois game, I thought Illinois played well defensively, especially for their standards. But they just didn't defend those off-ball screens nearly the same way or as effectively as Michigan was able to. And I was wildly, impressed with Dusty's game plan, especially like you mentioned on short notice. And again, for them to win that game, despite giving up all those offensive rebounds, despite shooting like garbage, really impressive. And to hold this UConn team to 34% from two on a lot of difficult twos, you got to tip the cap there. I mean, Terrace Reed, 4 of 11 is the big one that stands out to me. Like Mullins missing the floaters, kind of whatever. We saw that in the Illinois game. Demery and Ball weren't very effective inside the perimeter this game either, but Reed missing all those post-ups, it just goes to show you, one, how damn tough it is to finish over Ade Mara, and two, even when Mara was out of the game, how tough it was for him to finish even over Morez Johnson or Yaxel, I think, one time. So, 4 of 11, 4 of 12 from the field overall, 13 points on 12 shots. You just needed more from Reed, and I can't even say that it was like a really disappointing performance from him. I mean, 13 and 14 being a bad game is tells you how good he is, but that's just how it was. Like, he could not find his spots against Michigan, and that's a serious credit to that coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, you got 33 minutes from Reed. Going in, I think it was like, if he gets in foul trouble, this game is sunk, because Ryba was a concern, and I think Ryba's first possession, Morez Johnson put him under the rim and scored in the post, and it was like, they need to get Reed back in ASAP. But yeah, I think I said 5 of 10 for Reed. You're right; it was 4 of 11 from two, and that's obviously worse. And
unfortunately, we were a turnover away from a Ryba 6 trillion in the title game, which would have been incredible.
It would have been awesome. And I think he had one, the possession after he might have forced Morez into a travel, I think I'm recalling, because I was about to tweet that Ryba has screwed this game, and then he made a good defensive play, and I was like, all right, I'll lay off. I won't put that tweet out into the ether. I reverse jinxed him before I even hit send. But yeah, gosh, a 6 trillion in the title game would have been something to write home about. Honestly, Will Cheddar was 1 rebound and 1 missed shot away from it as well, so we could have had dueling 6 trillions.
Oh, if only.
That's the dream. Okay. All right. That's mostly the title game. I've got a number each from the semis, Will. I'll let you lead it off, though.
This one is a season-long one for a semi-loser, but I do want to touch on, how bad it'll look in retrospect, and kind of maybe we should have seen this coming. Arizona is going to go down with 954 made 2-pointers. That's the most by any team in the sport since 2015-16 North Carolina. They're going to go down as an all-time dominant team in the paint. They were elite at twos all year long, and we heard all week long leading into this game, it's not that Arizona can't shoot threes, it's that they don't want to. But the most reductive analysis of the game kind of ended up being right. They didn't want to shoot threes, and when it turned out that they really needed to, they kind of couldn't. I mean, they got punked right out of the gate. This was their 5th wire-to-wire loss under Tommy, which is pretty impressive to only have 5 in 5 seasons. But so many bad stats are going to come out of this game. Not only did they get truly dominated in the paint, they just couldn't. Again, it's kind of like Terrace Reed. They couldn't get to their spots against Michigan at all. And, one defense was simply a lot better than the other. And 7.3 average 2-point attempt distance on these. I mean, these are shots that, we looked at Michigan, we looked at Duke and all these teams throughout the year, and what they had was an elite 2-point percentage. Arizona's was not that elite. I believe they're going to end up around 52-53 on the season. Shot 37% from 2 in this game. And it was more by sheer will of one, getting to the foul line, and two, getting so many offensive rebounds along with not really turning it over much, that Arizona had the super high offensive rating they did all year. Once, they were faced with, a team that doesn't foul nearly as much and protects the rim a lot better than your average Big 12 team does, even in a great defensive league, Michigan was kind of off to the races. And I felt a little dumb in retrospect for not seeing this as a poor matchup for Arizona. But in my defense, I don't think anybody ever could have anticipated either team leading by 30 at any point of this game.
Yeah, the quote that kind of crystallized me feeling dumb was in the post-game presser when Dusty was like, this was basically souped up deluxe Gonzaga, and we beat Gonzaga by 40. Like, that version of a team has no hope against us. If you are super rim reliant, it's just not going to work. And the number I had for this game was one you mentioned, 37%. That was Arizona's finishing inside the arc. It was their worst of the season. Only their second one below 40% all year. The other one was Utah State in the second round. Perhaps that should have been like a mini warning sign that this game was coming. And I think there were a couple warning signs, and I ignored them a little bit. But early in the week, last week, I was talking about how, I don't know how Arizona scores. They don't have a secondary option, a plan B offensively if the rim doesn't work. Then I convinced myself they'd be good enough on the glass. They'd get to the line, and they had 18 offensive rebounds. They got 38% of their misses. They took 22 free throws. Like, those aren't terrible numbers, but they just couldn't score. Like, Koa Pete couldn't score inside. Awaka, Krivas had a couple of decent post-ups that just didn't go that well. And of course, Jaden Bradley was out, who's their most impactful off the bounce scorer. He missed a lot of time because of foul trouble. That certainly hurt. But yeah, there's one possession in particular I remember that Koa Pete caught it at the free throw line and was like, I'm going to try to put up this little like jumper floater thing. And Mara blocked it with like his armpit.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even like he tipped it. He blocked it halfway down his arm. And that was the most like, oh, this is just different for them. They're not used to playing this kind of size, rim protection ability. And it's the kind of the lasting image of that game for me, the lasting story is that they could not get easy points in a season where they repeatedly, continuously got easy points. Looking back, the other kind of number I added to this was their average 2-point attempt distance was 7.3 feet. They only had 3 games worse than that all year: at Houston, at BYU, which they finished in the first percentile, over 9 feet average 2-point attempt distance. They did win that game. And then Florida, and the season opener against that really awesome rim protecting front court, a lot of size, also won that game too. But actually, they won all 3 of those games: at Houston, at BYU, and Florida. But they won every game but 2 leading into this. But it just, like you said, I feel like I should have been more staunchly in on the idea that it was a terrible matchup, wasn't going to work, and it didn't end up working. Oh, the other one number I had too, Will, it was their lowest points per possession of the season by almost 10 per 100. Like, it was a dominant defensive performance by Michigan.
I also want to note 19% assist rate in this game. Previous low in the season was 31. So they didn't move the ball well. They didn't shoot well. They couldn't shoot their way out of it from 3. Other than that, Miss Lincoln type of game.
Yeah. I mean, they made 35% of their threes, but they only took 17, and a few of those were complete garbage time. Like, Braden Burries was a nightmare until the game was completely out of decision. I think he started like 0 for 9 with a couple turnovers or something. Just could not handle. Like, we talk a lot about Michigan's size in the front court, but Dusty harped on it a little bit too in their backcourt. He's like, Roddy Gale is big. Amari Burnett is long, and
Trey
McKinney's long,
like a freaking running back.
Yeah, and Cadeau is not very big, but he had a rim contest against Arizona that really stood out to me, and he almost had a chase down block against UConn. I think he got called for a foul, but like, he plays a little higher up, a little closer to the rim than you'd think for a guy of his height and weight and stature. So the overall size across the board of Michigan just completely overrode Arizona, because that had been Arizona's thing all year, and then Michigan just was better at it. All right, let's look at Illinois UConn, if you have a number for that. I certainly do.
Yeah.
We may overlap on this one, but I'll let you lead
I'm
off.
gonna wager we certainly will. So mine here is it's 2 because we got lucky, I guess, to see these two teams play each other twice. Number 42 and 43%. That's Illinois from 2 in both of these games. 43% on Saturday, 42% back in late November. We've all seen the stat about how Illinois' 3 worst offensive performances of the last 3 years. 3 last 3
Yep.
years are all against UConn. Obviously in different situations, but there's a real trend there. And Brad said in the post game he doesn't really know why. He said it could be the name on the uniforms that freaks his players out. But I would argue it's probably a little more to a couple of things. One, UConn does a tremendous job of making you finish one-on-one. They did a great job of cutting off passing lanes in this game. Really tricked, I thought, Wagler into taking on some shots he really didn't need to. He hit some of them, but there's as much as I can point to some shooting luck, and Illinois did have a few truly demonic rim outs in this game that you, me, and Kai up in the press box just after, because we're like, how many times is that going to miss? So
Yep.
you can point to that, but I did think that UConn came in with a great game plan both times, and especially in the the Elite Eight 2 years ago. The problem for me is that UConn's able to switch off ball. They do a really good job of that. They mix their pick and roll coverages so well, and I thought it kind of freaked Wagler out, especially in the first 8 or so minutes of the game. Illinois felt not like, I wouldn't say threatened is the right term, but perhaps I don't know, like scared almost. Like they were kind of freaked out by what they were seeing, and I wondered if it was the stage getting to them. Maybe going from Iowa to this is a little different. I mean, I'm not sure what it was, but they seemed legitimately alarmed by what they were facing for about the first 10 minutes. And they did hit some shots and get into it, but they could never create in transition against UConn, who got back defensively very well. They could never create their kick out threes they always wanted to. And it seemed like the open threes they got were almost always by shooters UConn was largely okay with allowing to be open, like Big Tommy.
Yep. Yeah. The stat, and this is my number one stat of it, but they were 2 for 10 on catch and shoot threes, unguarded catch and shoot threes. So only 10 of their 26 were the unguarded catch and shoot variety, is the team that generates them at a super high rate all season. And they just weren't really able to. And I talked about it with Hurley in the title game press conference, but Underwood, he just kind of lamented, we didn't make shots. Stuff didn't fall for us. Like UConn couldn't score from 2, but we couldn't score from anywhere. That was the story of the game. And man, that didn't really jive with what I saw. Like I know Illinois missed some bunnies, like you mentioned. They shot poorly from 3. But boy, UConn had a million unguarded shots. They had 16 unguarded catch and shoot threes compared to Illinois' 10. They went 7 for 16, so obviously a lot better conversion rate. But if they make 9 of 16 or something, this game extends on it. Wagler was only 1 for 9 from 3 until that final minute. The pull-up answer to sort of keep the game in reach, but it wasn't a swing the balance of the game type of play. You mentioned getting a little freaked out. I don't know if I would totally put this like with Mirkovic, but he picked up his first foul with one of those frustration reaches, and then it snowballed into, okay, he gets the second while contesting a shot, and he gets the third early in the second half, and they had to have him off the floor, and they couldn't really figure out the right lineups. Like I know Ty Rodgers can't shoot, but it would have been nice to have him as like a physical defender and the guy that can chase around screens, because Hummerkaus couldn't quite keep up. Jake Davis couldn't quite keep up around those web screens. And that was something that was, I think, predictable. And we talked about it on the show leading into the Final Four, that Illinois' defending of off-ball screens was poor all year, graded out in the 20th percentile. And then kind of play after play, UConn was getting open looks for Mullins or Caravan. And whether those went in or not, Solo Ball hit a couple early. Just the fact that UConn was getting what it wanted, and it wasn't what Houston or what Illinois wanted. Like against Houston, they wanted you to take mid-range jumpers. Houston obliged. But UConn was getting open threes whenever they wanted, more or less. And Yes, they hit a few more than Illinois, but it wasn't quite just a simple, if Illinois hits more shots, they win. Like, I agree with the shot quality score of this game. It's like 80 to 71 UConn, or 80, 82, what was it?
It was
81 to
like by
76.
6 or so, right?
Yep, 81 to
Okay,
76.
my
It
bad.
just, I thought the better team won UConn, and it wasn't quite just the shots for me for Illinois.
And like you mentioned with the lineups, I thought that one, they really it's weird to say this because he's a center and not perimeter guy, but they kind of needed Big Z to not just suck out from the start. He was awful in his 6 minutes, and they immediately abandoned ship on that. So that was one guy out. So you're down to 7. Jake Davis was truly brutal navigating those screens too on the defensive end. And so, as much as you needed his shooting, he only got up 1 3-point attempt all game in 17 minutes. You were almost playing with like a 6-man rotation at that point. And really, by the end of the game, with Boswell unfortunately really went out on a howler. I thought it was a really rough game from him. Uh, you, it was Wagler, Merkovich, it was Big Tommy, Stojakovic, and Hummerkaus. That's a fine lineup, but I'm not sure anybody would describe that as your best lineup, in an average game. And it felt like UConn played. It reminded me actually of some NBA playoff games where you see objectively good players get played off the floor because it's a bad matchup. And that was how I felt with watching Davis, with watching Big Z. They just kind of got played out of this game because it wasn't the right matchup for them.
Yeah, Big Z, he missed his only 3, and
Got back
it
down
became
twice in the
very
post.
Yeah, and it became very clear too that like UConn was going to dork him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't believe you can make threes, and he hadn't made threes coming into it. He's made basically no threes all season, but a really poor shooter, 26% from 3 in conference play. It just was not his season. I think somebody in the Discord joked he'd like gotten contacts or something, and or I don't know, his vision wasn't right, but clearly never solved it, and they couldn't go to him at all. And yeah, I think the stat I actually had written down to be the one I would cite for this was 3, which is the number of Illinois assists, the fewest in their last 5 seasons. Shout out to Evan Miyakawa for tweeting that. It was a lot of 1v1, and I know you get more assists if you made more shots. Like, obviously, if a couple of those things fall, you pick up some more assists, but it just was hard to score for Illinois. Every time they scored, it felt like a labor, something difficult. They weren't just generating open looks that bricked out. There were a few of those, as you mentioned, like the fast break where the ball hung on the back of the rim forever. That was where we looked at each other and just could not believe it. But it wasn't this never-ending flow of open threes and layups. It was a tough night for their offense, and all that credit goes to UConn.
Yeah, and with that game, like, could it have been better if like Davis took a couple more threes? Possibly. Could you have maybe fed Hummerkaus a little more? Maybe. But again, with how well UConn was limiting the open catch and shoots, maybe those are all wishful thinking. They seem to give up the shots they wanted to give up for the most part. And like we mentioned, Illinois just really struggled to defend those off-ball actions on the other end of the court.
Yeah. Only 10 unguarded catch and shoots. That kind of stood out of like an offense that seems to generate them at will, especially in the pick and pop type stuff. And it was a lot more making everything difficult on Wagler. And credit to UConn for that game plan. And credit to Brian Kervick in the Discord, because we gave him a lot of shit leading up to it
never
about
stopped believing. Never.
Yep. He was generally right about how the game plan from the first game still worked, despite a really different personnel grouping on both sides of the basketball. So I will tip my cap publicly and publicly acknowledge that. All right. Well, anything else from the games? I had one other number that's more of a joke, but it's from the title game. My number is 100%. That's my confidence level that Caravan 3 to cut it to 1.
Oh my God,
was going in. I was so certain that it was going to go in when UConn got the ball back down 4 with like 40 or 35 seconds or something like that. I was like, they're going to win. I put a tiny little sprinkling of a wager on UConn money line 20-1. And as that 3 was in the air, I was like, thank God I bet on the mandate of heaven, as you have called it. But it didn't go in, and hail the victor. Michigan takes the title.
Well, did you see the thing about how Michigan's last title was in 1989, and I guess Taylor Swift's last show of her tour was at Lucas Oil. So the Swifties won again. It just all comes back to them. It's crazy.
Oh man, I didn't know the Swifties did this, but it was them.
You got to tip the cap. They may. I think they might really have the mandate of heaven.
Now, do you think this breaks UConn's postseason run? I forget, somebody posted about it. It was like they've had, in 16 years, they've had like 6 titles, and then like 8 years where they missed the tournament or didn't even win a game in the tournament. It's like the fact that if they get to the Sweet 16, they win a title is like a completely absurd thing. Now, did Michigan break that juju and at the same time flip the Big Ten can't win a title narrative? This was all narratives suddenly being shattered.
I say yes and yes. I think eventually, I mean, we've lived through eras of like really bad Kentucky teams just because they were named Kentucky and coached by John Calipari making the Final Four. Like the 2014 team, being kind of garbage for 3 months of the year. And then it's like, oh, they're in the national title game now, losing to UConn, of course. Escalators, who we met in person on Friday, did say that he accepts that UConn's flipped the coin 20 times in a row and it keeps coming up heads. So, which, hey, like at least they know. So the UConn juju, I think, will come to an end soon. And like we do have to remember, like, yeah, they lost in the round of 32 in last season. I mean, people do forget Hurley's first 2 tournament games at UConn were both first round losses as the favorite. So, and like fairly close games, both of them too. New Mexico State and Maryland, right? The COVID tournament.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
that's right.
So I mean, nobody's perfect forever. So I do think that that'll help that. But the Big Ten thing, it's long overdue. If you look at just a basic map of, team performance to like seed expectations, the Big Ten over the last 25 years has overachieved on the whole, generally speaking. So for them to finally get this off their back, I think is good. It's going to lead to some really annoying articles, I will say, about how the Big Ten runs everything now because of money or whatever. Like, don't be a prisoner of the moment. Like, could the Big Ten run sports for the next 10 years? Yeah, and it'd be a lot funnier than when the SEC did it, and probably like 6 to 5% less annoying than when the SEC did. But I'm gonna place my wager on like an equal share in basketball amongst like the top 3 leagues over the next 10 years.
Yep. No, I mean, I love the narratives at the end of the tournament. Like after 2023, it was that we won't have great teams anymore. We're going to have these chaotic Final Fours. 2024, it was that it's going to, or 2022, it was all blue bloods. Only the blue bloods will make the Final Four because we had Kansas, Duke, UNC, and Nova. And now we can just decide that the Big Ten, it owns the sport. It's the complete dominating force.
I mean, the narrative of like the ACC will never fail. You idiots are underrating it every March. Like,
remember they performed below seed expectation this year, right? Yeah.
Or that one year, the COVID year where the Pac-12 had 3 teams in the Elite Eight, and we're like, "What? You East Coast bias freaks are underrating the Pac-12." I mean, they don't. I mean, unless they're in Fresno, I don't think they speak like that, or Bakersfield. But like, I mean, we do create these out of thin air every year, and while it is like pretty funny, I will hold off on crowning the Big Ten for now, outside of the part where I mentioned they have consistently overachieved this whole time. They just failed to get to the mountaintop.
Yeah, what I'll miss and what I do miss with the last 2 tournaments is like the team that makes the deep postseason run that everybody just has to rank top 5 or 10 next year. Like after Loyola Chicago made the title game or the Final Four, there were like people that had them number 6 in the country the next year, despite losing a lot. It just... We don't have to overreact to the single elimination tournament. We don't have to do that.
Well, the problem is this year we're not going to really get that. I guess Iowa would be the candidate if so they could be ranked, because I guess it's going to depend on who they bring back, because I saw Fulgaris hit the portal. But if Iowa's like, I don't know, 16th in the preseason poll despite having an entirely new team, that'll be one thing.
Yeah, then they've got to figure out, they have an entirely new team no matter what, because Bennett Sturts was so much of their team. The usage is going to change quite a bit there. I'm very curious to see who they get to replace him at point guard, because as you've written about, they're really, really good at developing point guards. So, okay, let's talk a little bit more casual on the weekend. Will, I got a couple of weekend that was numbers. I didn't do a beer count as much as I was tempted to because quite honestly, I thought that would lead to some bad introspection about where I stand in life. But one number I wanted to shout out was 0. And that is the number of steps I took outside to get from the Courtyard Marriott, the Media Hotel, to my seat at Lucas Oil Stadium on Monday night. And this is mostly just a case for how awesome Indy is to be a Final Four city. Everything is close. There's a million hotel rooms. Lucas Oil's right down there. The convention center is another one of my numbers. 937,000. Well, that is the square footage of the Indianapolis Convention Center. It's attached to like something approximately 1 billion hotel rooms or something like that via Skybridge. Just a really great site for it. There was somebody in the Discord that I think had the proper nitpick of, if you can't be outside, then it doesn't work as well because the bars get too crowded and there's a million lines. You need to be able to have like block party type stuff since there's no like tailgate settings the way there are for football, and you have a football sized crowd invading the city. But the most important thing to me is proximity, and Indianapolis has got that. Vegas should have that. San Antonio has it. New Orleans has it. And hopefully once it's completed, Nashville will have it. I think people talked about DC potentially. Atlanta's stadium is downtown. I don't know. I loved Indianapolis. The other time I went there in 2015 was a huge fan. We'll be back in 2029. So hat tip to the folks of Indiana and Naptown, USA.
I do think they should host it every 5 years on the dot. Every 5 years feels right to me. Like rotate them. San Antonio, same way. Rotate those two and then just feed in 3 others, however you feel. I don't mind New Orleans.
New Orleans will. It's got to be New Orleans.
New Orleans. I do genuinely think Minneapolis should be back on the menu. That's a great city and very accessible, very easy to get to. People need to quit. I did see our old pal Jeff Goodman's post about how it should only be held in warm weather cities. Put on a jacket. Quit being a baby. You grew up in Boston, bro.
He's soft. He lives in Charleston.
Yeah, he's soft. Sounds like a baby to me. They should cut this out and put like 7 emojis on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No,
Did you have any numbers? I've got one more, but I'll defer to you.
No, do your number and then I'll run through my list.
Okay. Well, mine is 0 for 3, and that was my shooting numbers away from the rim in the media pickup game at Hinkle. I was able to score fairly frequently around the basket, but I would say I was a beneficiary of the gravity of one Terrence Oglesby, a former Clemson star and European professional. Fantastic player, fantastic shooter. I fed off just kind of cutting when he was open, a couple of drives because nobody would help off him, a couple offensive rebounds. I was playing my garbage man role, my know your role all-star. Bricked a couple of threes, missed one fadeaway jumper, realized what my role was and stuck to that. So, but importantly, no injuries despite, I think I dove and slid into the chairs one time, had a little bit of a sore hip, but I will take that over any other potential injury. So it was a fun media game, and thankfully no painful storylines coming away from it.
Oh God, poor Isaac just about took CJ's nose out. That would have been rough.
Yeah.
Thank God that didn't happen.
Yeah, it was like a step through in on a fast break, kind of a high gather, and the elbow kind of clipped to old CJ. It was close. It was funny because the next time down the floor, CJ Moore was driving to the basket and finishing, and Isaac was the one contesting, and he purposely just like olayed him. It's like, I'm not hitting him again. I wouldn't dare back-to-back plays.
Smart man, especially when it's the organizer of the media game.
Yes, if you want that invite next year when we play in, I don't know, Palace.
I don't think the Palace exists
I don't know.
Anymore. I think they blew it up.
I guess we'll play it. Yeah, you're right. Auburn Hills is gone.
No,
so we'll play it to Detroit Mercy or something.
Or Wayne State. Wayne State's got an arena.
Wayne State would be fun. Yeah,
that's pretty close.
So if you want the invite,
I can't wait to be the expert next year. It'll be me and KJ, the Detroit experts.
Yeah, there we go. I'm saving my expertise for 2028. Well, when we're touring around my former residence of Vegas, that'll be fun.
maybe in the new Bears Stadium in Hammond, they'll do the Final Four there.
Yeah, that kind of undermines the proximity argument. But hey, Chicago would be fun.
It's just people on metro lines the whole day.
God,
it's like going to the Meadowlands.
Yeah, or people are boating to and from. I don't know. They're probably not. They probably haven't launched their boats yet in early April, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But okay, what other numbers you got from the weekend?
Check my Koros app. Not an ad unless they want it to be an ad. I don't care. See if it'll show on screen. I can't get the angle right. There you go. My little Koros watch. 95,309. Those were the steps Friday through Monday. Definitely got my runs in, but I was also just walking everywhere in downtown because it was actually outside of a couple of rainy moments. I think Saturday afternoon it rained. That might have been it.
Yep.
Right? Maybe Thursday night.
Yeah, there was like a full deluge Saturday for a little while.
So that was about it. But the weather was really nice. My runs in, got to walk a lot, which is my preferred state of being. Other number here, 9 different coffee shops visited. I did prepare a gold medal list. I'm a big coffee guy. Indianapolis, really good coffee city, and I've visited quite a few now, so I can say with real confidence, one of the better ones I've been to.
Okay, I did some work at one coffee shop downtown, and I'm curious if it lands on your list because I really liked it.
Okay,
and I hope it makes it on there.
All right, so my top 3: Red Door Coffee, which is in Lockerbie Square, like a quarter-mile walk from where I stayed. Just exceptional, really good, great vibes in there. Attached to a wedding venue, which is fascinating. So you could get married and have a big thing of coffee right after if you want to stay up all night.
Perfect.
Number 2, I think it was Bova something like that. Bova Conti Coffee in Fountain Square, which is like the part southeast of downtown. It's pretty good.
Okay.
No major complaints there. And I think number 3, if I'm remembering correctly, was Java House downtown. Java House was very good. Watched Evan Mia have a convo with one Chris Holtman there.
Oh, okay. Very nice.
So I think
the one I went to was called Good Vibes. And I liked the name.
That's all you need.
It was on a second floor. Kai and I each ate a ridiculously indulgent snack sweet treat. I think I had it. It was a chocolate chip cookie, a croissant cookie. It was ridiculously huge, but it was delicious. Then we watched St. Thomas coach Johnny Tower be on the phone for like 25 minutes there.
Nice.
We were going to say hi, and he just wouldn't hang up the phone.
All right. Best bar we went to, obviously St. Joseph Brewery. That's my number 1.
Yes.
Hosted us, whether they wanted to or didn't, because they never responded to my emails. But, we'll take the ad money if you'd like it. That was also great because I just walked home right after. Same from Tin Roof. Hadn't been to a Tin Roof in 10 years. Wonderful experience, gotta say. Best seat of the weekend for sure, honestly, the press box, because where I was behind the end zone, couldn't really see a ton outside of watching the jumbo. So did you know your seatmates other than obviously Kai and Matt in either of the 2 games or 2 days?
So not so much on Saturday, but on Monday we did. I don't know. I probably shouldn't even reveal this on air, but we snuck into like a defensive coordinator's office, and it was open air. So we did have the audio of. We could hear the crowd pouring in, whereas that was the main issue with where we were sitting in the press boxes. You couldn't even get the roar of the crowd during the big moments because it was sealed off by a window, and that was a bummer. It was a great view. I have no complaints about the view. But man, I would have loved to feel the atmosphere more on Saturday. Thankfully, we were able to get that on Monday.
Poor Jeff Borzello probably thinks I'm an obsessive or an idiot or both, because I talked to him 3 times over the weekend, and all 3 times, because I was thinking about it from our press box view, I was like, "Hey man, we got to talk about Football Manager because I know you play that game. You have to with how much you tweet about soccer." And I was watching it from the press box was a lot like watching the little dots move around on the mobile app, or like playing. Did you ever play NFL Head Coach?
I don't think so. I remember manager mode on MVP baseball though.
Yes. Okay.
So it's probably somewhat similar.
Same thing, basically. So you're just like watching it develop. It was pretty cool. I mean, we were able to call off-ball screens before they happen, which I couldn't do in the end zone seat. I'm trying to think of our other big numbers from the weekend. I don't remember the number of beers we would have had. I think I was at 13.
No,
13. Yours was.
I definitely don't want to. I don't want to revisit that number. It's just
doubled up.
They were. I did. keep it only to Friday and Sunday. No beers on game days. I did not go out post games. It was pretty much how soon can I get my head on a pillow. But yeah, Friday and Sunday. They're good times as part of that weekend. It's good to see everybody and network a little bit.
Yeah, network is one way to describe it for sure. I'd say at 40
Yeah,
plus,
exactly.
I think 40 plus people came Friday night, which is a great number to our little, we'll call it the Burr party. It's not quite the pump party, which is really funny to say.
Yes.
The
I
pump
want to
party.
shout out, you ranked that the number one bar, and I want to specifically shout out the waiter that had our big group that was somehow keeping individual tabs,
Incredible job by
which
him.
was unbelievable, with, as you mentioned, upwards of 30 people there. So people were closing out as they left, and we weren't left with this giant thing to solve at the end of the night.
I mean, we would just
so
send it to
respect
Trilly.
to St. Joseph's.
Yeah, Trilly
Yeah,
would
for
figure it out.
sure.
That would have come off our or like our monthly payment.
Yeah.
Got a couple specific shout outs I want to make sure get in here from the Burr meetup. Joe, who I think you met, not Jackson from Feed the Post, but Joe, a guy I've known via message boards for almost 20 years, and we finally met in person at the Final Four because he lives in Indy. That was very cool. Jake Fenner from the Daily Mail might be listening to this. Most knowledgeable person on U.S. soccer at this entire event. Great hang. Probably saw him every single day of that weekend.
Is it depressing to be knowledgeable of U.S. soccer right now? Because
yeah,
I'm a large USMNT fan, and
he seemed pretty bummed. We were talking about how Gianni Infantino is going to rig it to get the USMNT at least to the round of 32, which is apparently different from the normal group stages this year for some reason.
Yep. Yeah. Well, there's more teams. Yeah, it's 48 now.
Yeah, everybody's expanding. We love expansion, folks.
Yep.
Other key numbers I'm thinking of. I did see 70,000 plus people were at the game. Did feel like that. It was freaking packed for a Monday. I would say for Saturday, 55 Illinois, 45 everybody else. Some collection of everybody else.
Yeah.
Major.
Yep.
I mean, the IL, INI chants were loud when they cut it to 4-2. Whenever they had the kill shot.
Yep.
And then Monday night,
real big hat tip to them, the way they traveled.
Yes,
it was
both big
awesome fan base. I know it's driving distance, that certainly helps, and it's been a while since they made a Final Four, but showed up en masse and made their presence felt.
Monday night, probably 80-20 Michigan, I'd say, something like
that.
75-25
feels reasonable.
Met a lot of great reporters. We met a lot of great media people there. I'm trying to think if there's any other numbers. Evan Miyakawa, I think, made it online, but his performance as the coach in the media game was all time.
Oh yeah, he tracked plus minus. It was fantastic.
It was unbelievable. And every game, Terrence Oglesby would come by and say, "What's my plus minus?"
Yeah. Oh, I'll happily brag that I had a plus 14 plus minus that led the day. Was it because Terrence Oglesby also had a plus 14 plus minus and I played with him every game? You're damn right it was, but that's okay.
That's right. Oh, number one here. Restaurants have visited that have also been visited by diners, drive-ins, and dives. The Steer Inn. Did I tell you about the Steer Inn?
I don't believe so.
They show you this pork tenderloin sandwich I had. We'll put this in the Discord. Look at this beautiful thing.
Perfect. Oh my God, the bun is you need two buns to cover that thing.
Incredible. 10 out of 10. No notes.
All right. Is that what he got on Diners, Drive-Ins?
I don't know. I need to do some research, but I'll also show you. I'll send you this picture too. This is prominently displayed in the restaurant, which is incredible.
Oh, guys,
signed by Guy.
If Guy Fieri's there, you know it's going to be maybe not the healthiest, but it's going to be friggin' delicious.
Also, incredible number here. 4 number of people we hung out with this weekend that are live in Chicago out of our media crew of 9.
Yeah, there's a lot of Isaac and a lot of me and a lot of Kai. And hey, Matt even showed up.
Even showed up.
I'm
so proud of him for being there.
I was too. I think he was in Indy for, I'm not exaggerating, under 12 hours. So great stuff, Matt.
That's an overachiever for you.
Well, exactly. All right. Well, let's, do you want to give any final words? I mean, we don't know exactly what our off-season plan will be. Next week, we're definitely planning to do a post-mortem on the season of 6 or 7 numbers each, looking back on the year, maybe by team, maybe by the sport as a whole, but a true look back. But was this a successful first season of stats? You brought a tear to my eye with your Twitter post on Tuesday morning. So yeah, I thank you to you and thank you to the listeners. It's been a fun first foray into a non 3-man weave pod for me.
You ruined my bet here. I was going to do I pride myself as a man of faith. I don't know when I'll be on this mic next, and that's a deep shot to left by Castellanos, but that's okay. No, a great first year.
It still plays. It'll always play.
Still hits. But no, I was really touched by the number of people that came up to you and I this weekend and said they loved the podcast. I do tell people, and I am deeply serious here, I haven't heard a second of it because I have a big thing about listening to my own voice. I can't stand the sound of my own voice. So hopefully it sounds good. I think I sound like Nathan Fielder, which is good for some people. But if you're perhaps not a fan of Nathan's works, perhaps not. But I was touched by the number.
Right, there's off-season content ideas as you fix programs with Nathan for You strategies.
With the rehearsal, I think would be quite good. I did run by someplace that their name was like Burgers with a Z, and I was like, that would be a Nathan for You bet right there. Just like a rebrand with Burgers.
Yep.
But incredible the number of people who came up to me and said like they love my work or they love the site. Really touched by Kyle Boone coming back to the bar on Friday night with Isaac in tow because he wanted to meet me and didn't know what I looked like. That was very lovely. A lot of stories like that from the weekend. Final Four really does touch you at your core. A really moving event. Strangely enough, like the basketball is almost secondary to, getting to see everybody, hanging with Josh Schertz, I'm humble brag, but hanging with like our whole crew. Even if it's just once a year, it feels like a real family. And so like seeing the 3-man weave guys, Isaac, Pat Taylor, Eamon, like all of our dudes, those are my, to use a high school term, my ride or dies, which I'm not sure.
I somehow knew that's where you were going.
Not really sure people say that anymore. I'm washed and I got gray in my beard now. And my hairline's receding. I got a lot of shit going on. But, just really cool to have built this thing up and to see other people enjoy it the same way we do.
Yeah, it's been incredible. I truly did an admirable thing. I think taking what he had with the Discord and realizing he could build something out of it and turning it into shows and writing, and instead of just leaving it as it was and pocketing all the money, he wanted to create something that people enjoyed within the sport. And I am certainly thankful for him doing that and looping us in, looping you in, putting us together after Tits, the Isaac Trotter show, failed. Trilly kind of said, Will and Jim, figure it out. You're going to do something together. And it's been great. It's been really, really fun to work with you. Try to keep up with your references on the pod as much as I can. But yeah, I think people know how smart you are. And I think it's been fun to get to hear you talk through your thoughts. As great as your writing is, having you on a pod too is awesome. So thank you for giving that, sharing that, and to many more. Oh, one final stat, $43. I did purchase a $43 shirt at the title game. Don't tell anyone. Don't tell my financial people that. That's okay. You can write that off. Yeah, that's a tax expenditure. Perfect. Yep, exactly. All right. Well, yeah, as mentioned, thank you to Trilly very much for giving us the place to do this show, giving us the Discord, Basketball in Review as a site, everything he's put into it to build into what it is and to bring talent together about people who love college hoops, who care about it and live it every single day. Thank you to Corey Aldis, our producer behind the scenes, to Sam Frayer, the monstrous man who does our graphics, as we found out in person at St. Joseph's Brewery. God, what a star, what a legend. Yeah, thank God, he played at Ohio. He would have buried us. It would have been him and T.O. playing one-on-one at that point. But then, of course, thank you to Home Field Apparel, our sponsor, and to the listeners, the subscribers, everybody out there that has enjoyed the show or contributed to Basketball in Review with your membership money or your thoughts. We appreciate it. And it's been a great first season, first full year. And we hope to just keep making it better and better. Mm-hmm. All right. That's it. Cheers, folks. We will be back next week, as I mentioned, but just wanted to get that out there. So thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next week.